It feels like every week I come across YouTube videos or TikTok videos of 20-something-year-olds talking about quitting their jobs with no backup plan, ready to live life on their own terms. So many movements around anti-work, anti-corporate America, and anti-9 to 5 jobs. Don't get me wrong, I love the empowerment and the freedom that these people have, or the new freedom that they're about to take on by quitting their job. But the big reality is that many of us can't just get up and quit our jobs. And that is how the system is designed. Many of us have college loans we have to pay back, maybe credit card debt you have to pay down, maybe trying to support a family or trying to keep up with your rent payments. While quitting toxic jobs is valid, like if it's affecting your mental health or if you're being harassed at work, nobody should have to put up with that. But romanticizing quitting your job for Gen Zers is not just hurting us from a social standpoint, but also being reckless financially if you don't have money saved up or just quitting at the wrong time. To start it off, you have to understand a little bit about capitalism and just how 9 to 5s were designed. If you go back 1 to 2 generations, a lot of the times you could start working and entering the workforce with a high school diploma only. And then as time went on, college became relevant, and then a college degree became a new requirement for the barrier of entry into the workforce. So employers saw this more valuable to have a college degree somehow, and then they raised wages. And a lot of the times when you think of a generation like baby boomers, for example, once you enter the workforce or once they enter the workforce, they would stay loyal to this company for 20, 30, 40 years, right? All the way until retirement. And I've worked in finance in the past. I've worked in a bank, and I could definitely see a lot of people who just joined the company right out of high school, right out of college, and they stayed there their entire career. And it was true. But they had a good reason to stay. Back then, employers had a different mindset than they do today. And a lot of the times, too, big companies offered pension plans, which all a pension is just this company contributing into an account. And after, let's say, 30 years, for example, once you retire from the company, you'll essentially have regular income. The bank that I worked at had a pension, and then they got rid of it at some point in time. But employees that were hired before that were grandfathered into the plan. And then once they switched over from a pension to a 401k, like most employers do, right? With 401k plans, you have to worry about if the market's up, the market's down, and it's not as steady as a pension. So there's pros and cons to both. But with Gen Z now, we're facing layoffs, employers, you can see that there's no loyalty anymore. And a lot of companies are trying to replace people with AI, get rid of jobs, even though they're hitting record profits and the stock market is at an all-time high with some of these companies. They're trying to eliminate as many jobs as they can, offshore jobs in a lot of scenarios. And it's just pretty toxic right now in the work environment. A lot of people are stressed, and there's just a lot of uncertainty with jobs and how AI is progressing. But I will say, working with people much older than me, we did have something in common, and that was none of us actually liked to work. The job was soul-sucking, and it's true. The job is soul-sucking. Corporate America, nobody dreams of it. And when we had to return back to the office at one point, nobody showed up. We waited till the very last second until our employer started telling us to sign papers that we acknowledge that return to office is happening. We had to be in the office certain number of days per week and on certain days. We're all just faking it till we make it. And that's kind of my mindset now as well. The main point that I'm trying to get across in this video is that Gen Z is being perceived so differently now. And I know social media has come into play and technology has advanced where there's so many platforms that we can get on and express our freedom of speech. But I feel like Gen Z is just so open to hating work. It's so open to bashing their job and bashing what they had to do at work or their boss. And, it's always been like this in corporate America. Previous generations always had to put up with this corporate cringe is what I call it, when employers are just asking for ridiculous things, or a lot of the work that you're doing is just soul sucking and it's not fulfilling. But previous generations, they didn't really complain, or at least openly complain about it. Whereas Gen Z, we're just so open now, and we have a bigger reach with social media. And when I see a lot of these Gen Z posts now, essentially biting the hand that feeds them, where they're bad-mouthing their employer or complaining about something that their boss asked them to do, the perception of older generations when they see this kind of content, this is where we get the stereotype of Gen Z workers being lazy. Essentially, it seems like a lot of these videos, they want to be able to get the most amount of money or the most amount of satisfaction from the least amount of work. And a lot of the times, too, I've heard that Gen Z looks entitled, like we're owned something or we have some sort of privilege where, my boss is looking at spreadsheets, I'm looking at spreadsheets. But if I complain about it, I'm essentially doing the same work as my boss, but I don't find it fulfilling. Let me go online and make a video talking bad about my boss. It doesn't really make any sense. My boss is doing the same work, and spreadsheets were never meant to be fulfilling. We're all doing the same thing, and we're just faking it till we make it. Gen Z is just so open about hating employers and hating the work that they do, where the perception has changed from like older generations, where it seems like we kind of just want to dance on TikTok and make money that way versus looking at spreadsheets like older generations. Which I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but it comes off as a little bit entitled. It comes off as, this typical stereotype of, Gen Z being lazy and not really wanting to work anymore. And I've had lazy bosses in the past as well, much older than me, where, I would complete work, let's say really early, and my boss would tell me not to turn in the work to that team, for example, whoever requested it, just so that way that team didn't think we would always have quick turnaround times and be able to deliver on projects at like a crazy fast pace. So there's like the politics of it, but it's all kept internal. The second point is that these influencers that are quitting their corporate jobs and making posts about it, they're giving false hope to Gen Z. You don't know if many of them have savings set aside or if they have side income that they're bringing in or a spouse that can support them from, like, let's say another corporate job, or if they're living in a low cost of living country where they don't need to bring in as much money to sustain their lifestyle. Quitting on impulses like these influencers make it seem so easy to just walk away from a job. It's crazy reckless. This could lead into like debt, other poor financial decisions like opening up credit cards, taking out loans. Then once you're into debt, the only way to get out is to get another corporate job. Entitlement might kick in. You feel like you're too good to go back to working for somebody else. You don't want to go back to a 9 to 5 at a desk job. You're just entitled to, you've already made the escape. You want to stay escaped and never go back to corporate America. Plus, thinking about the long-term consequences, like you can miss out on career growth if the career field that you've entered has great career potential in the future, or investment account funding like 401k, where your employer is also contributing money to your 401k account. And if you're in your 20s, that's the best time to take advantage of all the compound interest in the stock market. And then you could also be losing benefits like healthcare, dental care. And if you have to pay that out of pocket, at least in the United States, that costs a lot of money. Of course, quitting and escaping the rat race is the dream, but you just have to be smart about it. Don't quit on impulse. You have to be strategic, make a plan for your exit. I've also noticed some of the reasons why people want to quit through social media posts like on Reddit or on like the Blind app, for example. And a lot of the reasons might be like burnout or a lack of purpose or people pleasing, where they just want to like please their parents or please society for whatever reason, or poor time management skills where they just want to get more time back to themselves. But at the end of the day, you have to fix these underlying problems. If you quit and let's say you had a lack of purpose, for example, at your job, if you quit and you're doing a side hustle or you take on another job and it's still not fulfilling and you're not happy with it, you're just going to be in the same spot again where you're going to want to quit what you're doing and you're constantly going to be chasing like the next thing. In order to quit strategically, you have to build an exit plan, figure out how much money you need in savings to quit, a place where you want to live, like if you want to move to a different city or even a different country if it's lower cost of living, and then side hustles that you want to work on, passion projects, or even other work that you want to get into, something that you can still sustain your lifestyle in. And then while you're in corporate America working away at a job, you can learn from each job, learn skills, and be able to apply them yourself through like freelancing or just finding clients and doing work on the side for them. The way that I view a job is that essentially you're getting paid to learn and you can take those skills with you after you leave the job. Also, changing your mindset to quitting towards something instead of quitting away from something. So like if you want to quit towards a goal before leaving each company, come up with an exit plan for that strategy of either, let's say, taking on another career that pays more, or you want to quit towards more fulfilling work, or you want to quit towards turning a side hobby that you've been working to into a business. Don't quit away from something where you're just quitting because you don't like the work that you're doing, or you feel like you're spending too much time doing busy work and it's not fulfilling. My personal definition of a job is exchanging your time for money, and I don't hate jobs. I think jobs are great for starting out. Unless if you come from a background with money or started a multi-million dollar drop shipping business back in high school, then working a job is the easiest way to start making money now and saving money for the future. You're getting paid to learn, companies are paying you to work for them while you're also learning skills that you're going to sell yourself in the future. You're going to freelance with those skills. And then also you're going to be able to network within the industry that your employer is in. You can gain clients that way, build connections, and build trust with the actual work that you're doing. And then you also have to realize jobs are not forever. You should always have an exit plan. Layoffs going on in the job market right now. The job market is trash for finding new jobs. It's still possible to land jobs. You just have to be creative in your job search. And then you also have to find purpose in life. Once you make money in corporate America, what do you actually want to do with it? It doesn't do any good just sitting on a pile of money, but what brings you purpose in life that you actually want to spend that money on, and what would make you happy? Quitting is not the villain, and everybody with a job looks forward to the day where they're financially free and working for someone else becomes a choice. Just make sure you're quitting because you are ready for more and not because you're tired of less.